What is up, guys? What is up? So today, or I should say over the weekend, there was reports that the Iran war is over. It's finally over. The Panikins were wrong. Tucker Carlson was wrong, etc., etc., etc. Just for the war to continue. And I will explain why, but yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Boom. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and share, and hit the bell on my YouTube at TownsleyR. Follow me on X at RyanTownsley, and follow my Facebook page at TownsleyR. So I asked Gemini, sum up the recent updates on the Iran war from May 22nd to now. So this is what Gemini has to say. The situation regarding the Iran war remains highly volatile as a fragile ceasefire negotiations are severely strained by a resumption of active military operations. And this is the craziest thing. I think it was Saturday, Donald Trump announced that they were like 95% done with this ceasefire deal and that they were going to win and Iran was going to give up all their enrichment. And all these Zionist and pro-Trump MAGA people on X came in waves. The war's over! They kept saying it, right? The Panikins were wrong! Donald Trump's the greatest! We told you so, we told you so. And I just sat back and laughed. Because I'm like, you can't believe anything Donald Trump says. I just said, you know what? Let's just see how it plays out. And it played out that, well, you'll find out here. Let's continue. Between May 22nd and May 26, 2026, initial optimism for an immediate peace deal was collapsed following fresh U.S. airstrikes inside Iran and an expanded Israeli offense in Lebanon. And the interesting thing is, the only people that weren't celebrating were like the Mark Levins or the Laura Loomers that didn't want a ceasefire, that wanted more attacks, more bombs, right? They thought a peace deal was weak. And those are the people that, according to Donald Trump himself, those are the people that are in his ear more than anybody else, other than, you know, the official government officials and in his cabinet. But like, those are the people that's in his ear. So I could kind of see them being like, no, this isn't time to end it, Mr. President. You're going to look weak. And he would look weak if they ended it. But let's continue. Resumption of military strikes. U.S. self-defense strikes. On May 25th, U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, executed targeted airstrikes near the strategic point of Bandar Abbas in southern Iran. The military started the strikes. The military stated the strikes were an act of self-defense to neutralize Iranian boats attempting to emplace naval mines and to destroy active missile launch sites. And this is another point I've been trying to make is like, how the hell could Donald Trump wrap this thing cleanly up before the midterms if they keep laying these mines? Now, this is the excuse that the president and the United States is making in terms of violating the ceasefire. But even if you came to a deal, it's going to take forever to get all those mines out. So we are already dug in a hole that we can't get out of come midterms. Iran strongly condemned the U.S. strikes, labeling them as a gross violation of the standing April ceasefire and an act of bad faith. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed it shot down an American MQ-9 Reaper drone over Keshem Island and explicitly threatened decisive reciprocal retaliation. Lebanon offensive escalation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered an intensified offensive against Iran-backed Hezbollah. Overnight strikes in southern Lebanon and the Bekaa Valley hit over 100 targets, killing dozens of people and complicating regional truce efforts. And this is the other thing. Israel has no interest in stopping this war with Hezbollah. Same with Gaza. Because all the people in the United States, they want to sit here and say, oh, Trump's doing this because he's trying to do a deal with China, and it's more than Israel, right? But from Israel's perspective, I was right in my prediction. They are trying to seize land in Lebanon as we speak. They are going in and killing anybody, not just Hezbollah, anybody, flattening it out, and it's going to be Jewish territory after that, right? This is all religion-based, right? If the Israelis were a country that wasn't based on God's chosen people, they wouldn't be fighting this war. But they feel entitled to the land. They feel that they are the chosen ones, okay? And the Muslims feel the same way, just from a different perspective, right? The Muslims in some ways are no different with their ideology. I guess the difference is the Zionist Jews actually hold political influence in our government. Let's continue. Stalled peace negotiations. Conflicting signals from Trump. This is where it gets crazy, and market manipulation may be possible. U.S. President Trump stated on May 23rd that a deal was largely negotiated. However, by May 25th, he hardened his stance on Truth Social, warning it would either be a great deal or no deal at all, reiterating that any agreement must completely bypass the blueprint of the old JCPOA. And it's looking like he should have just kept the Obama deal and just extended it. It's like, according to Tulsi Gabbard, who resigned, according to Joe Kent, who resigned, those two people say that they were monitoring their nuclear program. So in some ways, the Obama deal was better than this war. Now, we could sit here and say that the Obama deal was weak. Sure, the deal might have been weak, but it's better than killing innocent women and children, closing the strait, global crisis, and giving the Democrats the midterms. Now, I hope the Democrats win to spite the Republicans, because the Republicans have pissed me off beyond belief. But in general, I don't want to live under liberal Democrat rule. So this is all for nothing. Just keep the GCPOA. Anyway, core diplomatic sticking points. Broad principles of a memorandum of understanding are being mediated by Qatar and Pakistan in Doha, but major rifts remain. Iran demands a complete halt to Israeli operations in Lebanon and Gaza. Israel's not going to agree to that as a condition for peace. Conversely, the U.S. maintains that Israel retains the right to act in self-defense against Hezbollah. And that's the thing, is every single time Israel just invades Lebanon to stop Hezbollah, they always cry, it's self-defense because it's preemptive. It's like Israel is like genocidal. Okay, first of all, Israel is genocidal. We all know that. We all know what they did in Gaza. But they justify their genocide by saying it's just self-defense. It's so dangerous. The PSYOP is dangerous, right? You could do anything if you just claim self-defense. And then here are the nuclear sanctions dispute. Disagreements persisted over how Iran will surrender its 60% highly enriched uranium stockpile and the timeline for lifting the devastating U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports. And Donald Trump has lied like all month, saying they're going to give us the dust. They're going to give us their enriched uranium. They're going to give us this. They're going to give us that. And Iran is constantly coming out saying this is not true, this is not true, this is not true. So you really just can't trust anything Trump says. Nothing. Don't listen to his Truth Social. And that's the crazy thing, is he posts one thing and everybody thinks the war's over for 2 days. He posts another thing and everybody wants to shoot missiles again. It's like Donald Trump's really got his MAGA cult by the balls. And then here's the maritime and economic realities. So the Strait of Hormuz tolls. Iran continues to enforce a restrictive protection racket in the Strait of Hormuz, requiring passing commercial ships to obtain permission. Daily transits remain throttled to roughly 25 to 35 ships compared to over 100 before the war. And then global market reaction. Brent crude oil futures surged roughly 4% following news of the U.S. airstrikes, disrupting earlier market optimism that the key energy shipping lane would be immediately reopened. And then domestic developments, end of internet blackout. In a major internal shift on May 26, Iranian authorities began lifting the nationwide internet blackout. NetBlocks confirmed a partial restoration of connectivity, concluding an 88-day shutdown, the longest nationwide internet blackout in modern history. Interesting. So we're basically in the same spot that we've been in, right? In this standoff, this game of chicken, you want to call it, right? And here's the CNN reports. The United States had struck Iran after the IRGC was finding mines. So this was the news report about the attacks the United States did.
Were heard in the border city of Bandar Abbas. That's home to a key Iranian naval and air base along the strait. Iranian state media also reporting explosions in other cities as well. The attacks coming as intense discussions are underway tonight to end the war in Iran, but a deal is not in place. Iran's top security official declaring tonight, quote, "There will be no retreat." And there's this from President Trump.
These incredible men and women gave their lives to ensure that the world's #1 state sponsor of terror will never have a nuclear weapon. Oh, and they won't.
Were heard in the border city of Bandar Abbas. That's home to.
Yeah, and that's the most chilling part about this is what comes out of the president's mouth. He is constantly talking about we cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon. So that means that Donald Trump isn't going to quit. He is not going to stop, okay, until they don't have a nuclear weapon. And unfortunately, I don't know if the reality has hit Trump yet, but these people don't want to give up their nuclear enrichment. They will, having the nuclear weapon for Iran means that they won't be attacked by the United States anymore. That's why countries like to have them. Now, the war hawks will tell you, oh, Iran gets a nuke, they're going to nuke the whole world. Maybe. I think the more logical conclusion is they would have their nukes just like North Korea, just like Israel, just like Pakistan, just like Russia, and nobody would attack them, and that's it. And the United States would have to deal with it. And that would be the end of the story. So that's why they want the nukes, but it's like, Donald Trump, you're not going to get them to just give it up. If they haven't given it up now, after being militarily destroyed, then when? What's it going to take? My opinion, it's going to take a nuclear bomb from the United States, but I would be devastated to see that. So it is just, I mean, unless somebody in the comment section wants to step-by-step explain to me, because nobody can. Nobody out there can. I've listened to a fuck ton of YouTube and news and this and that and that. And nobody could explain to me how Iran is going to surrender. What is going to make them surrender? Please, somebody tell me, because nobody has that. If I asked Donald Trump, if Donald Trump was sitting in this room, I said, Mr. Trump, how are you going to get Iran to end the war, to surrender? He's not going to be able to answer. He's going to say, well, we can't let them have a nuke. We can't let them have a nuke. We're 95% at a deal, but we can't let them have a nuke. We're just going to bomb them. We're going to bomb them. Like, it's just never going to end. It's like it's a paradox. It's like an oxymoron. There's no way. There's no end in sight. And I am so desensitized to it. I was one of the few on Saturday when I read the news that said this war ain't over. I didn't drink the Kool-Aid and thought, oh, the war's over, Donald Trump's a genius, he did it. No, because it doesn't make any sense that the war would just end all of a sudden. And here's another Truth Social. I think Trump posted this today. If Iran surrenders, admits their navy is gone and resting at the bottom of the sea, and their air force is no longer with us, and if their entire military walks out of Tehran, weapons dropped, and hands held high, each shouting, I surrender, while wildly waving the representative white flag. And if their entire remaining leadership signs all necessary documents of surrender and admit their defeat to the great power and force of the magnificent United States, the failing New York Times, the China Street Journal, the corrupt and now irrelevant CNN, and all other major fake news media will headline that Iran had a masterful and brilliant victory over the United States, and it wasn't even close. The Democrats and media have totally lost their way and gone completely crazy. This tweet is very telling. Because before he gets into, because he is right? No matter what happens with this deal, he's going to get criticized by the left, obviously. But here's the thing. Everything that he described would be considered a win in this war. If Iran surrenders and they just throw up their arms, the Iranian people are free. It's a democracy. They're not building a nuke, right? Everything that he described here. If that happens, okay, I will come out here and say that Donald Trump did the right thing. And I was wrong. And I read the whole thing wrong. And somehow, mysteriously, he was able to pull it off. So I won't be like the fake news media that he calls. But the question is, that's what I consider a win. Is that what Donald Trump considers a win? Because now that he's put this in writing, if he achieves anything but that, then in some way he's admitting that he lost, right? Come on, think about this for a second. What he described is a full victory. But is that the victory that he's going to get? Because if he doesn't get that, then do we have every right to say, okay, maybe you failed? In some ways, he's kind of admitting. There's a little bit of admission there. And then Thomas Massey posted this, and I'm glad he posted this. It got 763 views, 45,000 likes. He posts, the president's big, beautiful bill, the Iran war, and Republican spending bills will create a $2 trillion budget deficit in 2026. And this is worse than Biden's inflation reduction bill and Biden's infrastructure bill. This is worse. Way, way worse. Because at least with Biden, yes, they were spending money as well, but you had the rate hikes on top of that, balancing inflation. And during the Biden's end, they brought inflation down. The problem with this is, yes, Trump's spending just like Biden, but Trump is also trying to get interest rates cut. Now, as much as the interest rates being cut would be great news, that would be extremely dangerous to do right now. You have massive inflation going up tremendously right now due to this closure of the Strait of Hormuz. The fertilizer's going up, the oil's going up, it's all going up. Prices of everything's going up. You had a rate cut on top of that? Oh my God. I don't even know if we would even recover from the inflation that would bring. So Donald Trump is spending like a Democrat. In fact, he's spending worse than a Democrat, and he's making the government bigger than the Democrats. You might as well just call Donald Trump a Democrat. Thomas Massey is the real conservative, libertarian, Republican. He's the real America First, not Donald Trump. And then I also found this interesting. I'm not a big Glenn Greenwald follower, but this popped up on my feed on one of those Jubilee debates. So I guess he debated a bunch of young Trump supporters. And let's just watch this clip. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just saw this clip.
I think bombing Iran is absolutely in the American people's interest because they've been a problem for 47 years. And I think what Trump is doing is he realized an opportune time where their economy, like the real, means absolutely nothing. Their terror proxies are no longer a deterrent. Hezbollah and Hamas have been absolutely decimated since October 7th. And a desperate attempt, they murdered 30,000+ civilians in the streets, and their uranium, 30,000+. According to hospital records, 32,000. And 60% uranium enrichment. So I think Trump is looking right now and saying, we don't know what the next administration is going to do. We could have Democrats that might unfreeze their assets again, go back into the JCPOA, this is an opportune time where they're like the weakest they're going to be in the whole existence. So like we should end this now.
Yeah, I think it's, I want to talk about that. I just want to ask you, and I'm not trying to be personal in any way, but I do think it's an interesting phenomenon that for centuries, when countries wanted to go to war and people said, yeah, let's go to war, the big test was, are you willing to risk your own life in the war that you think is so important to defend your country's interests? You seem like a young guy to me. Have you ever thought about going and fighting in this war that you're cheering on?
I mean, I've thought about joining the military before. I don't know about this war specifically, but that's what makes them heroes. They put themselves in dangerous situations.
Yeah, I'm asking that because, as I said earlier, we are a country that constantly fights wars. It's extremely aberrational for other countries on the planet, including very powerful ones like China, as I said before, that has grown so significantly because they know that war is not a way that you pretend you protect your national interests, but you undermine them. But we are so eager, so it's so easy for us to say, oh yeah, go fight that war, go blow up these people.
We're a global superpower. Of course, we're dealing with
China's
stuff all the time.
China's a global superpower as well and doing infinitely better than the United States by so many metrics because of the, go ask Latin American and African countries with whom they're dealing more and who they prefer to deal with, China or the United States, and they will tell you that the United States is a bully country that runs the world through military force and China isn't. That's one of the problems that we have. But Iran has not attacked the United States, has no ability to attack the United States. A moral country only goes to war and blows up elementary schools if that country is actually attacking the United States. It's supposed to be a war of last resort. That is not the case here. We're blowing up their country, we're killing their people, we're threatening civilizational annihilation
Iran would,
because Iran is not a threat to the United States.
Death to America, death to Israel, 60% uranium enrichment. There's never been a country ever that for civilian uses with nuclear energy that goes that high.
When the Iran deal was in place, to what level did Iran enrich uranium?
Want to know the thing about the Iran deal?
I asked that,
They
please.
kept it low. Want to know why? Because that had an expiration date. Meanwhile, they got to reap all the benefits of their unfrozen assets and fund their proxies.
This other thing about unfrozen...
There's no limitations on their terrorism.
Do you think the United States has the right to just go around stealing other people's assets? Like, hey,
if they're going to use it for terrorism,
Indonesia just sold, and the United States just decides that on their own.
We're in a higher moral ground than Iran. Why are we pretending they're the same thing?
Because I think that's very doubtful. I know people in the United States, some of them think that, but the rest of the world does not think this.
Wow, there's a lot there, and I think that is like the perfect just war question. If this war is so necessary, and you're a young person advocating for it, are you going to fight? Are you willing to fight for this war? Like, for example, if we got invaded by China tomorrow, and there's all these Chinese soldiers, storming the street of my neighborhood. Me and my dad would sit there and fight them off because what else? We're going to fight and defend our country and our home. That's a war I'm willing to fight. But if it's this obscure Iran war where Trump is constantly lying and you don't know what's really going on, fuck that. I wouldn't fight. Most people wouldn't fight for this war. So that should be question number one. If this war is so necessary, because what's the cost of this war? We've already lost some of our soldiers and we've killed children. So that's another question. Are you willing to kill children, not on purpose, but are you willing to sacrifice potential children being killed for this war? That's question number two. Are you willing to fight for this war? And are you willing to allow children to be killed because of this war? And if you can't answer that question, then you shouldn't go to war. It's not worth it. Now, if you think it is worth it, then go fight this war and go kill children. Go blow up a schoolgirl house or something, right? Because we all know that's the reality of what happens. 100,000 people in Gaza were carpet bombed by Israel. And then they lied and said, Hamas has human shields. You're going to carpet bomb them. That's not, what's a human shield going to do in a carpet bombing? It's genocide. And that's the other thing. Are you willing to commit genocide for this war? Because the Israelis are. The Israelis think that genocide is necessary to preserve God's chosen people because God favors Jews, and so does our president. So that's the reality of the situation, and that leads me perfectly into this. Now, I can't show this, I don't even want to look at it again because it made me sick to my stomach all day yesterday. I don't even want to describe it, but I have to. Marjorie Taylor Greene posted this. Dear America, our tax dollars, military intelligence, and majority of elected leaders are enabling this. Are you too racist, ignorant, or cold-hearted to demand this to stop? And I'll get called anti-Semitic for even talking about this. But within this video, obviously I can't play it, there's all these children that were recently killed in Gaza, right? So imagine Donald Trump comes out on Saturday, announces, oh yeah, it's rainbows and sunshine, a deal's coming. And then within that framework, Israel starts bombing Gaza again. I thought there was a ceasefire there. Guess not. Israel starts bombing Gaza. And it's like an infant, like not even a year old, an infant, its foot's blown off. It's literally, its foot's dangling. The poor baby's crying in pain. The mother's killed. The sister's killed. Let me get the details of this. When did this happen? Who died? Yeah, so this happened yesterday. Khan Yunis, southern Gaza. The 1-month-old infant's mother was killed, and a 6-year-old was killed. The 1-month-old survived but had a foot severed in the strike. The baby was inside the tent, reportedly being breastfed at the time. Thank God Marjorie Taylor Greene posted this. People need to see the reality. People need to see body parts blown up, infants killed. Because the people that don't see that are the ones advocating for this war. Like that kid in the previous video, guarantee he's probably never seen anything like that. But people need to know what's going on. People need to see the genocide. It's Israel that's killing women and children. Iran, yeah, they allegedly killed their own protesters. That's horrible. But just because Iran kills their own protesters, am I supposed to ignore the fact that Israel is genocidal and they're blowing off body parts of infants? I mean, imagine I open Twitter and the first thing I see is a crying baby with its foot blown off. So how the fuck, yes, how the fuck are you going to get me to want my tax dollars to continue funding genocide in Gaza and my tax dollars to continue blowing up Iran? This shit is disgusting and it needs to stop. And I'll end it with the Professor Jang Alex Jones clip. Because these guys might have the best answer as to how this thing wraps up.
Looking at Iran, they know the negotiations always get broke. They know they make a deal, they just get bombed in 6 months. So because they're cornered, it makes them strong. That which doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, to quote Nietzsche. If they can control the strait, existential, force the withdrawal of U.S. forces, they don't have to make any deals, they get reparations, then they win. I don't see Trump agreeing to that, but they have no other course, but then they also hold us by the balls. So it really is like a Mexican standoff here. And I just hope the Iranians can give at least on some level to end this, because Trump now figures out he got set up so he can pull out of this.
Well, I mean, there are three major sticking points in these negotiations. They say they're 95% there. It's the last 5% that's very problematic, right? So the first sticking point, as you mentioned, is Strait of Hormuz, where Iran wants sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. And America can't allow that because basically it would surrender the entire Middle East to Iran. So that's the first sticking point. Second sticking point is the nuclear issue, where Trump wants the uranium and Iran refuses to give it up. But the third sticking point, which is the most problematic, is Hezbollah, where Iran says that whatever ceasefire that we agree to applies to our proxies as well. So both to the Houthis, to Hamas, and to Hezbollah. And Israel would never ever agree to stop this war against Lebanon. So I think.
And Israel, as you're saying, said they won't stop. And as soon as this peace deal started to go through, they started bombing Gaza and Lebanon yesterday. You're exactly right.
Right. So there's absolutely no.
And this is why, spare me, Israel's our greatest ally. What kind of ally starts bombing in the middle of a ceasefire? That's why I say fuck Israel. Don't give a shit. Call me anti-Semitic. I don't care.
Way to a ceasefire, because if Iran were to give up Hezbollah, then Iran would be extremely vulnerable to attack. It would lose all credibility. IRGC would split up into a civil war because you have one faction that would never, ever give up Hezbollah. And so there's really no way for the United States and Iran to come to a ceasefire.
By the way, you just hit a key there, because I've read that over the years, a decade studying Iran, and with top CIA analysts I've talked to. They set it up where it's not vertically integrated, it's parallel. The mullahs told them, if somebody tells you give up, kill them. They're not giving up.
Yes.
Because they're totally
exactly right.
compartmentalized. They're not. That's why they're so strong.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So they have something called the Mosaic defense right now, where the IRGC is divided into like 31 separate command and control centers. You have 31 provinces. Each province is independent. So you don't have a leader in place. What you have is an ideology. What you have is an eschatology. And so there's basic principles to this eschatology, which includes to defend the proxies at all costs.
So we have two ideologies: end of the world, Jewish messianic behavior versus Shiite great Mahdi behavior. Yeah, so this is dangerous.
This is dangerous because both are waiting for the coming of the Messiah, right? So the Jews are waiting for their Messiah, and then the Iranians are waiting for the coming of their 12 Imam, who will lead them to victory against the Antichrist.
If you were Trump, give the president advice. People listen to you. What would you tell him to do? Because we know he looks for a face-saving way to get out of this, which I get. If we don't have face-saving, the dollar dies, we're screwed. We're in a very dangerous position. So how do we face-save?
If I'm Trump, what I would do is convene a meeting. And I would invite China. I would invite Russia. I would invite India, right? This is what's called a C4. I would also invite Japan, and this part of this C5. And this is what Trump wants to do as well. The reason why is that as long as these nations agree to a new world order that's multipolar, and they agree to share power, then it's entirely possible to come to ceasefire in Iran. And that, I think, would be the best move for Trump right now.
I agree, because, I mean, point blank, Israel's the problem here. They're the expansionists. They're out of control. But they just won't give up. So what happens?
Well, I think that Trump is stuck where he is because the Zionists are able to exert tremendous political control over the United States. So look at Thomas Massey, who was an extremely popular congressman in Kentucky. His constituents loved him. He was very charismatic, very articulate, and he was a very principled man. And then the Zionists spent about $35 million, and they put up this no-name individual who was very camera shy, who had absolutely no real ideology, and he won. And not only did he win, but he won by quite a lot. It was a 10-point victory.
Yep.
So unfortunately, this shows you the power of the Zionists in America.
Yeah, the Zionists are the most powerful faction in America. They own the porn industry, right? Think of all the pornography out there, all owned by Jews. So all the porn that's corrupting all these young men's minds, owned by Jews. Most of the media, owned by Jews. Literally the president, bought by the Jews. The Zionists are the most powerful faction in our country, and they're foreign. And if we can't tell them no, then they are really calling the shots with this war. I mean, think about it. If we really were in control, if the United States was really in control, then Israel would have stopped bombing during the ceasefire. The reason that Israel continue bombing during these ceasefire talks is because they know they can. And they know Donald Trump, he's not going to do anything. He's not going to tell Bibi no, because Donald Trump's afraid of Benjamin Netanyahu. I guarantee you. Whether it's blackmail through the Epstein files that they have on Trump, whether they've threatened his family. I've also heard, and I forgot exactly what it's called, but Israel itself has a backup plan in case the United States leaves them. And I believe their backup plan is to use nuclear weapons. So maybe we're in a situation where if we tell Israel no, they're going to use nuclear weapons. Now, this is all speculation, but we're dealing with a powerful entity that I believe the Israelis and the Zionists are saturated with evil, infiltrated by Satan or some form of Satan, some form of demonic entity. Something evil is calling the shots in Israel, and for some reason the United States is going along with it. But that's all I got for you guys today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share, and hit the bell on my YouTube at Townsley R. Follow me on X at Ryan Townsley, and follow my Facebook page at Townsley R. Post long-form videos Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I post the shorts of those Wednesdays and Fridays. And this is Townsley R signing out. Bye-bye.